This is Scott Becker with the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. These are 17 stories we're following today, April 25th, 2023. Thank you for listening. So first, the majority of the discussion below is going to be business focused. There's a little bit of political updates, just given that yesterday's news was sort of heavy with political news and network news. There's a little bit of that as well to go with mostly business news. So first, President Biden officially announced yesterday that he and Kamala Harris are running again. The concept that he and former President Trump could be in a rematch 2020 with the Biden-Trump election, to me, is sort of the height of absurdity. That is just insane that there's a potential for another Biden-Trump rematch, but we'll see how this all plays out. Let's hope not, but we'll see how it plays out. It will be entertaining, but absurd. Second, Tucker Carlson and Fox News parted ways yesterday after 14 years. Fox dropped 3% on the news yesterday. There's a story Fox News fires host Tucker Carlson, who had bad-mouthed bosses. We'll see if that's really the reason or what the real reason is. But this goes to show that people who own the network, and the talent's the talent. And they're two very different things in the long run, even though Tucker Carlson was crazily popular. I know that Fox Nation, as you see in all the comments and everything else, is pretty upset about the Tucker Carlson firing. Third, CNN and Don Lemon also parted ways. Again, what a debacle. Fourth, NBC Universal fired their CEO, who apparently had an inappropriate relationship at work. A lot of that going on. Fifth, the markets point down this morning. U.S. futures fall amid earnings, treasuries, amid earnings concerns, and treasuries rise. Sixth, the market's relatively flat yesterday. On the 24th, the S&P was up 0.09%, the Dow 0.20%, and the Nasdaq down 0.29%. Seventh, the one-year Treasury yield and the 10-year Treasury yield each fell on increased concerns of a slowing economy. We'll see how that turns out. Eighth, Tesla, one of my favorite things to watch, and I'm not an investor, is down 23% over the last 6 months and 51% over the last year. I am overall a huge Elon Musk fan for his gargantuan drive in world-changing businesses. But perhaps solely from a shareholder business perspective, he should talk less about politics and involve himself less in politics. Ninth, one of the things we've all been following is Anheuser-Busch controversy. But for all the controversy, Anheuser-Busch seems to be overall doing fine. The stock is still up 40% over the last 6 months and seems to be doing fine. Wall Street Journal has a great article. Bud Light faces boycott calls, but punishing his brands is harder than it looks. People are actually absurdly loyal to their brands, unless the brand is really doing something horrible. But so that's the story in the Wall Street Journal. It's fascinating, actually. 10th, Microsoft and Amazon rely very heavily on Azure and AWS. They're both cloud businesses for their profits. Story in Yahoo today about Microsoft earnings could take a back seat to cloud growth troubles, i.e. concerns about whether the cloud is still growing. 11th, and here's where we talk about some of this individual stocks and stuff like that. Microsoft is up 17.49% year to date and 2.82% over the last year. I will note that since I invested in Microsoft, it's down 1.1%. An investment, much like a sports bet, however, and however dumb the sports bet or the investment is, makes it far more interesting to follow. The same is true of Amazon, which we'll talk about in a second. Amazon is down 26.4% over the last year. Since I invested in it brilliantly, it's down 31%. 13th, we largely invest in indexes and treasuries. That's what we call the core of our investment plan. Then I make small investments in a handful of firms and VC and PC funds. Well, I've lost money in Amazon and Microsoft. Here, I at least invested based on a perception that there's still a lot of profit in their cloud businesses. I may have been wrong, but at least I had a core thesis, a purpose in investing them. 14th, in contrast, when I put money into cannabis and Bitcoin, I had little thesis other than why not and fear of missing out. This is a harder to defend thesis for investing in poor investment thinking. Bitcoin fell nearly 70% during my holding period, but in good news for others, it's risen a good deal since I've sold it. That's sort of my situation with Bitcoin so far. But again, the thesis of investing in why not and FOMO are bad investment theses. 15th, the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast, an absolute record month this past month. God bless that. 16, listen to the episode we had yesterday. Great CEOs pay down debt. Anti-fragility companies is good, even if some of the finance bill might not love it, but paying down debt we're a big fan of. Finally, 17th, we recorded yesterday a podcast of Becker's Healthcare on 14 stories of Becker's Healthcare we're following currently. A lot of interesting news there in healthcare, a lot of it dealing with daunting hospital challenges financially, but also AI and technology on the other end. So a lot of interesting stuff going on. Thank you for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Again, if you listened all the way through to this episode and you text me at 773-766-5322, and you're the first person to text me, we will send you a $100 Amazon gift certificate. Thank you so much for listening to the Becker Private Equity and Business Podcast. Thank you very much.